Click the links, join my channel here over at SubScribestar. There's other links. Got a mailbox. You want to mail me a comic or whatnot, though. Don't mail me any of these woke comics. They're horrible. So Azur La Cucaracha comes for geeks and gamers. What is happening? DC Comics appears to malign YouTuber Jeremy Griggs by turning him into the Blue Beetle based Chad character. It's not a villain when the SJW comic protagonists are coming across as insane, whiny little soy boys, and the quote-unquote villain is coming across like a base Chad who's saying everything we're all thinking. So what is happening is you have anti-white writers at DC Comics and a bunch of butthurt, bleeding pussy SJWs with Trump derangement syndrome, started back in 2016. And these people are actually insane, and all they have are stupid straw man arguments. So what's happening here is there are these pop culture channels on YouTube like this, but talented with production and effort put into them, and they look at the globalist pop culture and point out how stupid it is, and this is literally Hotler to the bleeding pussy soy people. You have Geeks, The Quartering, Nerdrotic, and there's a bunch of other, but I think those are the big ones. Watching YouTube is just painful because everyone has to pull their punches. It's what Google did to you. That's why Google bought YouTube. That's why Facebook bought Instagram, so they can control the narrative. Oh, wait, it's called YouTube. Kind of implies something, right, Google? No, comrade. It's RTube. So those are the big guys. You're talking about a group of guys, maybe 30 to 50 years old, who make millions talking about what bullshit dog shit the globalist soy slop out there is. I mean, it's mental soy slop to go along with the food soy slop, because it's so mind-numbingly bad. Everything in the mainstream is, whether it's movies, comics, whatever the top 20 Oprah book recommendations are. I see those books because they're in the local libraries, lending libraries we have all around the neighborhood that started during the Wu flu, I guess. And they're insane. It's some of it has got to be money laundering. Like when a politician gets a book deal, like a $4 million advance or something, and you look at this hardcover book for $26, there's no way this is making money for the publisher. But then what happens is the publisher will get a sweet deal for Scholastic publishing from that politician. It's like, oh, shouldn't that be illegal? Yeah, well, I mean, Nancy Pelosi shouldn't be worth $200 million. AOC shouldn't be worth $30 million. You get the idea. If you hear a purring in the background, I'm cat sitting this old time cat. So the amazing thing is and I'm not a cat person, but this is one special cat. The amazing thing is there's no shortage of things to talk about in the mainstream, because these soy people in Hollywood are running this engine at Redline, and they don't care about what happens after. What happens when the companies can't pay the expenses that keep an organization solvent? They don't even consider that. That's something other people worry about. Every month, the lizard people in Hollywood will come out with some new cancerous AIDS movie or streaming show, some anti-white racist bit of globalist monkeypox, or anti-Christian or misandrist. It's so predictable that you can make an outline of a movie before it comes out, and you're going to be right on 9 out of 10 points. If non-white character, then Space Jesus, Mary Sue. We're saying for female, like Daisy Ridley. I don't remember what character she played. Daisy Ridley in the Star Wars trilogy. Wow, that was horrible. Every time I think about that, I think I can't believe it was as bad as it was. And to look at Disney and to look at the two idiots who are involved with that and think, how do you waste an opportunity like that? It's like, but they literally did it. So if blonde hair, then antagonist. Everything bad has to be framed as the fashionable ones from 80 years ago, to the point with Indy 5 that they will lose, I don't know, $250 million to shoehorn them in there. No. Here's the plot. Oh, it's the 50s and 60s. We're going to have communists, right? The growing bullshit movement. No. We're going to have time-traveling Hugo Boss. But that's our slur. That's very... How... You know, nobody cares about that, right? And it's like the needle scratch on the record that you just can't say that. But that's the truth. Nobody cares about Hugo Boss as a story element anymore. If anything, there are more people who are supporting them now because they see how soy the alternative is. It's like, oh, clean, quiet, safe cities. Yeah, that's the problem with Hollywood. That was with the Robert Heinlein, A. Heinlein book, Starship Troopers, and they do it a lot in comic books too, where they have to portray extreme right wing fashionableism, and they show the people and they're all thin and good looking and in shape, and they show the cities and they're clean, and people like, yeah, these aren't the bad guys. You realize this, Hollywood, and Hollywood identifies with the disgusting insects who just want to enslave all humanity. Anyway, so the thing is, if you see how bad the alternative is, it's like, yeah, you're going to support clean, safe neighborhoods. Communism has always been the real danger, obviously, but Hollywood is literally run by communists, so every plot line is going to be blonde man bad. It's all so tiresome. And I guess nowadays it's probably going to be Russian blonde man is going to be bad. So I guess you can say that this character is roughly based on Geeks and Gamers, but it's a chimera, an amalgamation of pretty much all the top 6 YouTubers. A guy with a hat on could be anyone, but the left has to strawman that there's some right wing on YouTube. There isn't. The right wing all got kicked off after the 2016 election. There used to be legitimate right of center channels on YouTube. Some, at the time seemed normal because it was like, oh, YouTube, you assume it's anyone can put stuff up there that, isn't advocating illegal acts, and you get a diversity of viewpoint. And then after the 2016 election that saw Trump get elected, Google meets with the other lizard people and they just go, oh, we cannot let this happen again. They're terrified of diversity of thought that was going on. So YouTube now is the most boring milquetoast platform out there. I mean, there's still people who are making money on it, a lot of money. Those pop culture channels, but it's just like everything is so lukewarm. There's Rumble, Odyssey, GTV, FTJ Media, White Pilled, and there's a bunch of other live streams that are forming every day where things are alive and raw. The censorship on YouTube is so bad that people will do the first hour on all the platforms, then they'll shut down the YouTube feed so they can get people on the other platforms to cover the wrongthink that the lizards are terrified of. But the left wing thinks YouTube is still in the 2015 days, or they're mind warped enough to think that because people like Geeks and Gamers points out how stupid the globalist propaganda is, that he's actively recruiting for his militia in Montana or something. The left cannot take any diversity of thought or free speech. They have to censor and deplatform because they have bad ideas that fall apart when subject to scrutiny. If the right has free speech, we win. The left can only win with censorship and a police state. And there's I don't know if I can get into it on YouTube, where you have free speech, you have people move further to the right because it's been suppressed for so long. So they strawman a character that's a combination of the top pop culture YouTubers, and it's painfully stupid to think that there's any right-wing ideas being discussed on YouTube. That's all 10 years ago. And the underlying issue the comic is discussing is essentially that they promote non-Euro groups to form. I'm going to have to use a lot of euphemisms for this. YouTube doesn't like colors. So they promote a lot of non-Euro groups to form identity groups, but they're terrified of Euro ones doing the same. So the comic is trying to control the narrative, because what's been happening is this growing anti-white racist hate movement, and anti-whiteism that has been pushed by globalists in the West. So the left-wing commie kids, Antifa, and the black supremacist groups like BLM, they're just the useful idiots, the foot soldiers. They've been so brainwashed that they're tilting against windmills and further pushing anti-white racism, which is making a lot of people start putting their almonds together and do some thinking. And there at the time, there was not a lot of pro-Euro groups. They were kind of looked down upon, or not understood. So what naturally happened was people saw that they were being attacked as a group for things they didn't do, and understand that they have to see themselves as a group under attack and start forming in-group preferences, in-group identity, pro-Euro, anti-communist defense groups, because they were literally under attack. And because it's just game theory, if people are forming tribes and they're focusing hatred against your people, then you can't defend yourself as an individual. You'll get wiped out. You have to also form tribal identity movements, which have been happening in America, Canada, Australia, Europe. And that's fantastic. Everyone should have safe spaces where they can just be around their people, because almost everyone hates diversity and doesn't want to be around groups that has adverse interests to theirs. Why would they want to? And if you're mentally ill enough to think diversity is a strength, great, go find other like-minded people. But most people don't want to be around tribes they have nothing in common with. And what has happened is, since there's been so much of this anti-white hatred being pushed by the lizards, that people are forming safe spaces for their people, their Euro people, which apparently is driving the left-wing, the commie crowd insane for some reason. All other groups can form identity for their people, and that's fine, but they're threatened by European people finding their power and uplifting each other. Now, of course, none of those YouTubers, the Nerdrotic and the Ryan Cannells, are this right-wing. It'd be a lot cooler if they were, though. But none of that stuff is allowed on YouTube. I can say it using a lot of euphemisms because the channel's so small that it's under the bleeding pussy soy boy radar. The YouTubers are simply telling the audience what they want to hear, that video games and movies are insufferably woke, which they are, but this drives the SJWs crazy, and they have to defend these billion-dollar companies because they're pushing the same globalist propaganda that they believe in. It's their religion, that they have to focus all their hatred onto blonde people. And we're obviously innocent. We're not the problem in any situation. We're the solution. We're awesome. They are the problem. But if you're not of a Euro descent, look at it this way. With all the mainstream globalist anti-white racism being pushed out there, obviously you can understand why we would want to form groups just for us without toxic outsiders. Everyone needs sacred spaces to just be in a positive environment. Why would we or anyone want to be around people who hate us because of our ethnicity? We'll just go away from the mainstream and form alternative communities. Anyway, give Geeks and Gamers a Roman salute his next live stream, and I will see you guys all next episode.